Hello everybody. Welcome to another TIETS Informational here. Today we're going to talk about Mangrovia, which is, in a really cool setting with a bunch of mangroves. I'm not going to pronounce this right, but it's Elif Sevenson created this game. And first and foremost, this game is super awesome to look at. The artwork to me is just really, really cool. It has a cool look to it. It stands out next to all your games. The board is awesome, like awesome. Components wise, it's very, very cool. Get into that in a minute. But basically, you're a chief of Mangrovia, and the old chief is on his way out. He's dying, he's passing away, whatever, however you want to look at it. And we got to decide who's going to be the new chief of Mangrovia. So you have all these people that live that are fighting to get chief points to ultimately become the new chief of Mangrovia. That's what the game's about. But without further ado, let's take a look at the game, set up, a little brief intro on how to play it, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the big question that we all want to know. Should you own this game, and should you play this game? So let's get into it. Okay, so here we go. This is Mangrovia. This is basically what the board looks like set up for a 3-player game. So we'll go over the quick setup and then a little bit about how you play it. As you can see, it's an amazing, awesome looking board. It's just really fun to look at. Anyway, here you go. Here is the starting player talisman. So first thing you're going to do is figure out who the starting player is. Once you figure that out, they're going to get this token. And then you're going to take their starting card. So you start and you'll see these little numbers indicate. So the first player is going to get these 2 goods cards to start. So they're going to get some shells and some feathers. Player 1, so they're going to get that. Then player 2 is going to get their goods cards, which in this case is pineapples and some sort of precious stone. And then the third person is going to get pineapples and some gold. That's going to be the third player. Your other cards, the 4th and 5th player cards, they're going to go in the box since we're not playing with this. So then basically those players are going to get these. And, we'll just put them over here with the player colors for now, so you can see what's going on here. And then you're going to put, of course, in the little track here, the chief points, which is what you're trying to earn to win the game. That's basically the scoring track that goes around. Then you're going to have 3 of them here in the little amulet hut section, which is going to allow you to get these really important amulets that you're going to need. You get 5 that are with a 1 on them, and they're going to go in this little spot right here. And then all the rest of them are going to go into the bag. And you have variables. They come in their 3s, their 5s, 4s, and 6s. So you have all the different denominations that you're going to have in here. And those go in the bag. The draw bag adds a little, luck factor to the game. And then once everybody gets those cards, they're also going to get 2 landscape tiles, which you're going to have the mangroves, you're going to have the sand, you're going to have grasslands, and then you're going to have water. So everybody's going to get 2 of those cards to start. That's going to be their opening hands. So everybody's going to get 2 of those. So they're going to have 2 landscape tiles, 2 good tiles, and then they're going to be ready to go. Basically, also here, this is the pull area. And you're going to have these little pull tiles, which are basically chief victory points for the end of the game. And those are going to go here in on this little island. These here are huts, neutral color huts, so whatever color you're not playing with. In this case, red. They're going to go on the little gray spots, which I'll show you closer in a minute. But those are going to go in there. And those are obviously can't be used. They're already occupied by the red tribe. If you're playing a 2-player game, there's a bunch that have whites on them right here. And those whites are going to be filled with the other neutral color. But in this case, it's a 3-player game. Then you're going to take your little birds of paradise, these little cool birds of paradise meeples, which, me and my kids had an argument that they weren't birds, but you can see the little head and the wings. They just like to mess with me on that sort of thing. One's going to go on mangroves. The other one's going to go on the water. Okay. And then you're basically set up, ready to go. And this little red, purple hut's over here. Your little boat is going to go in the little boat section here. It's going to go around the islands. So basically, that's your setup. Pretty simple. And now we're ready to go. Okay, one other part about the setup that I should have said. Basically, each player in the 3-player game is going to get 10 huts and 2 pans. So each player has that. In a 4 or 5-player game, you would reduce the number of huts, and in 4 or 5 players, each person would have 1 pan. Then you're also going to you're going to shuffle the landscape cards, and you're going to place 3 face up. Then you're going to shuffle your goods cards, and you're going to place 3 face up. And then you're going to be ready to go. Okay, so once you're set up and ready to play the game's played in 3 phases. There's the playing bowls phase, which is basically where you're going to be choosing your actions, and we'll go over that in a second. Then there's going to be the moving the boat, which is here. It's going to move around, and that's where you're going to actually carry out the actions that you are trying to achieve. And then at the end of that, you're going to have a cleanup phase, which is basically preparing for the next round, which is collecting your boats and redoing the cards. So what you're going to do here on the placing the bowls phase is you're going to decide what actions you take by placing bowls here. So in turn order, it's going to go, someone's going to place a bowl, someone else is going to place a bowl, you're going to place a bowl. The only real rule here is that the first player can't place his bowl in the first player one at the beginning. Now, as it goes back around the second time, if no one's placed it there, he can place it there again. And so everybody places their bowls, and then we're going to be ready to do the actions. So you can take a look here of how cool this looks. All right, so the actions are pretty simple. So here you're going to take, you have a choice. The boat's going to move here, and we're going to go 1, and then they can take 2 cards that are face up, so any of these cards. So you're going to be trying to collect goods, and then you need islands to build huts, the different terrains. So you're going to be doing that. So here you're deciding if you're going to collect amulets, which you're going to need as payment, and we'll talk about that. You're going to go around, and then here is where you're going to end up actually being able to build the huts that you're trying to build. 1 hut or an amulet, 1 hut or build a double hut, or 2 huts, build a hut, get a card, and then of course this is the first player area and moving the birds of paradise, which we'll talk about. Okay, let's talk about the sections in the board. So this is the main plain area where you're going to be building all your huts, and there's going to be these divine paths, and there's going to be a stone area and then a pole area, and we'll talk about what all those areas mean. Over here is your amulet area, and this is basically how many amulets you're going to get to pull out of the bag and how many you're going to get to keep, which is going to help you be able to build in these areas. So basically, in order to here, if you are doing the select amulet action, and then you come over here, and this, if you're on the 0, you're going to be able to collect 1 of these 1s until they run out. If you are to ultimately move up to any level here, so if you're here, you're going to get to draw 2 out of the bag and keep 1. So if you draw 3 out of the bag, keep 2, and so on. And this is basically how you're going to move up on this board. And in order to move up on the amulet board, you're going to have to build huts inside these amulet circles, which are here and then over here. This little cool section here is the birds of paradise section. And where these birds are is the terrain that we're going to be allowed to build huts in. So if we're on mangroves, we can build on mangroves. Water, we can build on water. In this one, sand and grasslands we would not be able to build on. So later, when these start getting moved around, we can build in different areas. These cool totems represent the different divine gods, I guess, of this, the different chiefs, let's say. You're going to have divine paths that run vertically, so these 4 go all the way down, and then these 4 go horizontally. So basically area control. You're trying to get as many huts in here, and at the end of the game, you're going to get 10 chief points, and second is going to get 5, 12, 6, 10, 5, and so on. So you're going to be building in there. This is the stone area, and in the stone area you're going to build huts. You don't get any immediate chief points here, but as you build in here, you're at it's end game scoring. You basically get the total number of huts multiplied by your huts, and you get that many points. So for example, if you had 3 huts in here and there was a total of 8 huts, you would get 24 points, and everyone scores. There's no tiebreakers. This is the pole area. If you build a hut here, you take this, you're going to get these 2 points. You're going to put your hut on that, and that's how you build there. And at the end game, whoever has the most huts in here gets 12 chief points. Second person gets 6. The tiebreakers are actually broken by whoever has the lowest number. These actually go up, so you get more victory points as you place later in the game, which is more difficult, but you get the tiebreaker if you build earlier. Okay, let's talk about hut building, which is really how you play the game and how you end up winning the game. The game actually comes to an end once someone has played all 10 of their huts, or depending on how many players, 9 or 8 huts. So in order to play a hut, obviously you have to have your token here. So let's move purple here just for demonstration. So the boats here, purple can either take an amulet or build a hut, but in this case they want to build a hut. So they want to build one of the huts in this column right here. It is on water right now. So basically what they're going to need is they're going to need to have a water card. So we take a look and see they have a water card. And well, they don't have a water card, so they wouldn't be able to build it. But here we go. So they have a water card, and then they're going to need the exact denomination of goods. So these numbers represent goods. The other ones represent amulets. So they have to have 14. So we'll just conveniently take this 5, 7, and 2 here. Let's say these were in your hand. So you'd have to have these in your hand. So you would actually have to have the exact 14 points. You'd have to have a water. Your bird of paradise would have to be on water in order to build there. Then you would take your hut and you would build it here. And then you would get the immediate effect of what's in here. And basically, it's going to be chief points. So in this case, you would get 5 points immediately. And you would put your little hut there, and you'd be ready to roll. In order to build in with one of the amulets, you would have to, let's say we want to build here, you would actually have to have 5, or a denomination of it, 2, 3, whatever, the exact amount. So you would place that. You would have to have a mangrove, so you'd play that. And then you could build your hut right there. You would take the first one of these chief tokens, put it there, and build your hut. Okay, real quick, let's talk about building a double hut. So let's say blue wanted to build a double hut. The boat's here, blue's there. Let's just, to make it easy, he wants to build in this water. The birds of paradise are here. So basically, he would have to have 2 huts. He would actually have to be able to pay for it twice. So he would need 2 waters, and he would need to pay the 3 twice, a total of 6. And then he could build a double hut there. So end game scoring, pretty simple. You're going to go through, you're going to do all these divine paths. So in this case, purple has 3. So they're going to get the 12 victory points, the chief points. Blue and orange are tied. So how the tie is broken is whoever is highest, closest to the totem. So in this case, it'd be blue. So blue would get the 6 points and orange would get nothing. Then the 2 other areas on the board, here we have this, we talked about it briefly before. In this case, orange has 4, and there's a total of 8 huts in the stone area. So 4 times 8 is 32, so they would get 32 points. Blue would get 16, and purple would get 8. Red is just our dummy guy, but if red was an actual player, they would get 8 as well. Down here, I don't have all the huts in there, but if the game ended like this, purple would get 12. Let's just say, let's throw an orange in here, and orange would get 6. They both have the same, but the tiebreaker goes to the lowest. So you would score that. So you would score all the pass, you score the stone, you would score the pool area, and then you would obviously have all your points that you scored during the game from these tokens and from the spots here. And the final scoring is depending on how many amulets you have left, you would get those total points. So if I had these two left in my possession, I would get 6 victory points. And then you just basically add up who has the most victory points, and that's who wins. Okay, so that's it. So a little bit kind of bounced all over the place there, but you'll kind of get the idea. It's not a super heavy, deep rocket science game. It's really a family-oriented type game, you know, where it's kind of simple. But man, is this game really, really fun. It's very cool. You know, you're dealing with area control. You're trying to control these rows. You're trying to control these rows. You got to decide, hey, okay, you know, do I need to pick more? Am I going for the ambulance? Am I just trying to get a lot of goods? You know, when do I go over here? You know, am I going to be able to move these birds of paradise? Because they don't move very often. You know, you kind of got to go through and you got to go on here, but then you're risking whether or not you can build or not. You know, these ambulance spots get taken up. You know, this is really cool because you get an amulet and you get to build. It's the only section that you can do that, but everybody else gets to build before you. And if someone takes your spot, it's not going to be good. And then, of course, the person that gets here can really mess you up over here. There is a variant that takes a little bit of that away. There's a little bird of paradise chip that you can get inside the stone area. But if you get that, you know, first it's luck of the draw, first of all, whether or not you're going to get it or not. I guess you could, you know, play another variant where you could flip them over so people could see what they were, and you could go for that area. When we do that, we play with it face down. But again, I can't tell you enough about the components. I mean, we'll just look in the box real quick. It's just cool how they did this. You know, of course, you got the rule book and all these different languages. So you have a bunch of different languages. And then, you know, of course, I get the punch out. But you have these little areas where you can keep all the little pieces. It's got a space for the card, of course, the bag for the ambulance, and then, you know, I added a couple little bags. But just cool how they, you know, went that extra bit to do that. Anyway, you know, it's a little bit tough to come by right now here in the United States, but you know, I'm sure it'll be over here if you can get a copy of it. And you like kind of area control games that you can play with the family, where there's a lot of things to think about, even when it's not your turn. This is a really fun game. If you're into components and just a really great looking game, then this is, I would definitely recommend it. So let's talk about the player count real quick. 3 players is interesting. 2 and 3 players is interesting because everybody gets 2 pans. When you're playing in a 3-player game, all these spots are going to be filled every time. If you're playing in a 4-player game, there's always going to be 2 that are not. And if you're playing a 5-player game, there's always going to be the 1 that's not. So that adds some interesting elements. The 3-player game is going to go a little bit faster because, you know, you're doing 2 every time and it gets out a little bit. The box time says 60 to 90 minutes. Probably your first game, it's going to take you hour 15. Depends on if you have guys that are really, you know, AP and just trying to figure it out, because it can get a little bit crazy. Like, God, is that going to be open? And should I go for, you know, should I go for different landscape cards? Should I go for more goods? You know, what should I do? You know, and I think the theme is cool. Some people may say, oh, it's just tacked on. You know, it's tacked on. I hate, oh, it's a tacked on theme. It's not a tacked on theme. It's cool. Like, you just got involved, you know, we named our little huts, you know, you name your little tribes, you know, TIETSville or whatever, Chief TIETS. And then you go in and, you know, you try to become the chief. I will say that my son destroyed me in this game the first time we played it. He just dominated in here, and I guess we weren't realizing how many points, and he started doing double huts in there, and it was just, you know, a lot of points. With all that said, if you can get a copy of this game, get it. It's definitely cool. It's fun. I just love the way it looks. I think I'm going on and on about it. I would say, you know, if I'm rating on the Board Game Geek scale, I'd probably give it an 8. You know, it's not overly complex, but complex enough to where it's fun and you can play it with your family. So that's Mangrovia.